All right. Good morning from Bali. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, for taking this time in your life to intentionally stop and drop into the presence of the moment. We're so often trying to make life what we want it, to create the opportunities and the experiences that we're often not just rested in the essential grace of the moment. And whenever I use the word grace, it means truth, at least the way I use it, to come to rest in the divine grace of the moment. Just what is, not what we're trying to make of it, not what we're narrating or opinionating or judging about what is, but the isness of this precious life. So thank you for joining us here in Dharma Talk, also known as satsang. Sat is truth. The absolute truth, the essential nature of life itself, of consciousness, sat. And song is sangha, to come together more and more as a community of worldwide community of people who are truly interested in piercing the veils of illusion, the illusions of separation, and recognizing the unity, the oneness of being, the shared experience by all beings, which is the one consciousness of loving awareness, without judgment, without opinion, without conditioning, without programming, just the pure oneness of loving awareness. That's the Sangha. And it is so valuable to come together in these conversations, in these explorations, in these intentional meditations, to remember what's real. We get so lost in the moment, lost in the content of experience, get lost in our own narratives, constant narratives about what's happening and what it means, what we want, what we don't want. We can get so lost in that we forget that that's all coming and going and arising and passing within the presence of pure awareness that we are. Mm-hmm. If you are joining in the Oasis community, you have the opportunity later in the satsang to click the button that says join in the conversation, and I'll bring you on screen with me, and we can have a dialogue to explore your journey of awakening as who you truly are. And if you are on YouTube, you can join in the chat, and I'll be monitoring the chats as best I can to hear your questions or your insights or your sharings as part of the community. So blessings, my friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I'm currently writing a book, and as I'm doing so, it's really asking me to be even more attentive to what are the foundations? What are the really essential foundations of awakened living that need to be addressed or attended to? So we don't get so lost in all the content of experience. We can still play in it all. We can still experience it all, but not to get so lost in it that we forget our essential nature, which is already whole and at peace, the stillness of being. And what I'm recognizing currently is that really it's about learning and learning the truth of our being and how to abide that truth, how to come into alignment and come to rest as that truth, which is essentially, it can be called many things. But what resonates with me and what the book is really honing in on right now is inner peace, genuine inner peace. And I invite you just to hold that for a moment and imagine. Imagine not just being at peace with life, with your own mind, with your own conditioned anxieties or thoughts or fears or doubts, these programs and conditionings and what we have learned and the egoic construct that we have put together of self, to be even at peace with that and all of its machinations, to be truly rested, not just at peace, but as peace. The I am. I am the stillness in the background of all experience, unwavering. Whether I remember it or not, it is still always the truth of being, the essential nature of being. So that's what more and more these satsangs, these invitations, these conversations are really about. How do we come to know that essential piece of being? By awakening to it, to awakening as it, to awakening to its presence, and which is itself awakening to its own presence, awakening beyond the dream of self that we have, the egoic self that tends to veil that knowing. When that veiling is lifted, who we truly are can know itself. So that's what these conversations really are about. How do we come to abide the power of inner peace? And imagine that. Imagine not just coming in and out of peaceful states of mind. Then when we are in a peaceful state of mind, we tend to try to cling to that and make it stay, or we tend to try to over manipulate the world around us so that it doesn't disturb this fragile peace of mind. Because peace of mind is always going to be fragile because it exists in the mind, and the mind is an unstable place. So imagine not just achieving peaceful states of mind more and more or more often, but imagine something awakening, a peace of being, a stillness of being, an unwavering grace of being, illuminating, awakening, blossoming, until it is it's always present, but until it is knowingly present in the background of all experience, so that no matter what you encounter with life, you experience, you feel genuine, what I call an equanimity of grace, a genuine peace that can notice if your egoic thoughts, beliefs, narrative is currently active in a anxiety, let's say. What's beautiful is both can be present, because both are present. The anxiety, even when it arises, is not the only thing there is. It's not the only thing there is. It is arising temporarily, whether it be a 10 seconds or 10 weeks. It's arising temporarily into the presence of unwavering peace and stillness of consciousness that we are. The unwavering truth of who we are, the essential nature of who we are. That anxiety, let's say, arises into that embrace, into that allowing, into that unwavering love. Now imagine with your studies and your devotions and your practices coming to this place of unwavering love and having it open and blossom so that it is always present. That's what's possible on this journey, on this path of self-realization, of recognizing and abiding who we really are. Isn't that beautiful? So how do we do that? We start right here. We always start right here in this moment with an intention to be more conscious of what the heck is happening right now. Oh, there's the outside world moving, being. There's my conditioned thoughts and feelings and narratives and emotions around all of that. But behind that is the unwavering consciousness of love, of acceptance. And I am that. So we intentionally stop on a regular basis and ask, wait, what are the components of this human spiritual experience? What is the spiritual nature of my being? And it's always present. It can't not be. It doesn't come and go. It's who we are. So let's take a moment. Just allow yourself to slow down. Bringing our awareness to the breath is a wonderful tool for slowing down. We're not necessarily quieting the mind. We are intentionally pointing our awareness somewhere other than the mind. So you're pointing your awareness to the breath. Just notice the inhale and the exhale of your breath. Bring your awareness to the pace of your breath, the cadence of your breath. Bring your awareness to the depth of your breath. Full breaths. Bring your awareness to your heart center. And imagine that it is your heart that is inhaling and exhaling. Imagine the breath moving in and out through your heart. And if you feel or encounter or experience any hint of peace, of calm, of stillness, when you drop below the mind, down and down into ever widening circles of being, into the ground of your being, the essential nature of your being, before thought, before beliefs, before egoic stories. Drop down, drop down, drop down. Be present to the breath, be present to the heart. And if you feel any experience, recognition of peace or stillness, recognize that it is always there. It didn't just arrive. It is the essential nature of your being. It's always there. It's always present, and it's always at peace. The issue is that we let our attention get completely captivated and consumed by our mind's projections about each moment. What does it mean? Do I like it? Do I not like it? The ego is always asking, is this a threat to me? Does it demean me? What does it mean about me? And we get lost in that narrative of our own mind. But at any moment, we could stop and intentionally drop our awareness down and down out of the habitual activity of mind and into the essential grace and peace of our being that is always there. Ah, I am that. I'm not my mind. My thoughts come and go. My stories come and go and are constantly changing. Come to recognize, come to rest in the unwavering and unchanging peace of who you really are. There I am. There I am. Always, forever, there I am. You can perhaps imagine the mind as being the surface of a calm and still pond. And things happen in life, and that's like pebbles being dropped into the pond. And at the surface, ripples occur. The mind thinks about the moment. It judges the moment. It assesses the moment. This is the ego assessing each moment relative to its feelings about self, to its stories about self. A moment happens and the mind activates, the ego activates with its assessments and opinions and judgments and conditioning and programming and beliefs. Those are the ripples on the surface of the pond. But if you drop down into the stillness of the pond, you will find that that pebble, it activated at the surface, but then it just drops peacefully through the pond. The pond is not agitated. The surface of the pond might be agitated. Opinions, beliefs, thoughts, stories, narratives. Beneath that, there is peace. And often, when we feel that disturbance, an egoic panic, constriction, fear, narrative of worthiness or unworthiness, story of self, and it's displeasing or disempowering or disturbing, we tend to want to make it go away. So we get very involved with the thoughts, trying to change them, make them go away, calm them down. And in this analogy, that would be like taking your hands and trying to smooth the ripples on the pond. And wondering why won't the ripples calm down? Don't touch the thoughts. Don't touch the activity of the habitual mind. in your practice, in your meditations, what happens when you don't touch the future? When you don't pick up and re-examine the past, but just come to rest in the stillness of being, the unwavering peace of awareness, of consciousness. Now we remember this truth of being, this peace and stillness, so that it can be more known. Every remembering is an illumination. It becomes more blossomed, more known, more trusted, more accepted. There's a stronger abidance of this truth that's always there. We can reprove it to ourselves again and again and again. Every single time you drop your awareness down out of the habitual narrative and projections of mind, you will find peace. So every time we remember it through our practices, our meditations, our self-inquiries, it becomes more robust, more prevalent. It's always there, but it becomes more known. And as it does, as this peace, this stillness, it's like a superpower. As this strength, this power of true, genuine inner peace is known, then we might turn and address some of the agitation of mind, but not from a place of needing it to do anything, but to be met with love and understanding and compassion. We don't want to make it wrong and shame our own egoic wounding and programming and make it the villain and go into battle with it. But to hold the loving presence of awareness so that even our own difficulties and hurts and pains and fears and uncertainties can be met with love. It's like a small child who is afraid coming to the healthy parent and saying, I'm feeling a fear. The healthy parent says, yes, I hear you, I'm here. Let me hold you while you feel this fear. Let me hold you. We can gently talk about it if you'd like. But the healthy parent doesn't say, stop it. That's stupid. Being fearful is wrong. It's being weak. No, the healthy parent says, yes, you're feeling fear. There's no problem with that. It doesn't make you any less than. It's a part of the human experience. And it holds space. What we tend to do is when that fearful child arises in our psyche, we say, oh, God, not you again. Oh, no. Oh, you're such a pain. Your fear is unwanted. It's unwelcome. Go away. Go away, go away, go away. We want to come to rest as unwavering love, so that anything can appear in the awareness of that love, and it is loved. That is the superpower of true, genuine inner peace. So I hope there's a resonance here for you. A recognition, a remembering of your own truth, your own divine grace. And it takes practice, and it takes study, and it takes engaging in these conversations again and again and again and again. It's like anything, you know? Somebody who plays, unless they're a prodigy, somebody that plays beautiful piano, a complicated Mozart concerto, they had to study. They had to practice. And at first it was difficult and a strain and a remembering where to put the fingers on the keys. But with practice and devotion and study, one day they're just playing beautifully. The music is flowing effortlessly through their fingers. Why would we not want to study and master the truth of our own being so that it just flows effortlessly and continuously in our awareness, in our consciousness? Good morning, Ali. You're here on YouTube. Okay, got it, I think. Yeah. Remember, Ali, you can always, if you join through the Oasis, through the link, you can join in with video conversation, with live conversation if you'd like. Good to have you here. Good to see you. I think that's Ali. Hold on. Yes, it is. It's a superpower. To know our inner peace is a superpower. It's freedom. Because life's going to happen, and people are not going to behave, and life's not going to behave. And all manner of circumstances and conditions and relationships and conversations are going to happen. If we predicate our sense of peace upon all of that behaving, we will suffer, we will struggle. Something came up in our last satsang 2 weeks ago that I wanted to address or speak to. A very valid and common question was raised. And the question was raised around what motivates our actions, the things we're trying to create in life, the families, homes, relationships, jobs, creative endeavors, travels, the things that we do, what motivates what we do. And when we start to recognize that the egoic motivations are all feeding a construct of self that isn't real. The ego is not an actual thing. Ego is activity of mind. The ego self is a story of self, an activity of mind, a constantly playing and forming and reforming and reformulating story of self. It's not who we really are. It's made up. Now, aspects of the egoic identity are handy to live in this world of form. We have a name, we have a sense of maybe role or identity or place in the world, and that's handy to live in this human form. But the stories of what we need to feel loved, what we need to feel happy, what we need to feel at peace, those are egoic needs and egoic parameters. And so the question arose that, wait a minute, when I come to rest and I recognize that's not who I am, it feels like there's an emptiness. It feels like all motivation goes. And what would motivate me to live a life? And isn't any, as soon as I start moving into activity again and seeking and doing and trying to create this, not create that, isn't all activity from the ego? And when we feel that, when the ego doesn't quite recognize that there is another self that can be motivational, when we feel that, it can be very scary. And the ego says, no, you need me. I'm the one who motivates everything. I just need to be a better ego. I just need to be a less fearful, more of a sense of fulfillment, less sense of lack. I need to be a more robust or healthier ego. Because what would motivate any action other than ego? We want to remember that a far more prominent and enduring essence of our being is the soul. The soul being an individuated expression of the one consciousness. And a soul also has desires, inclinations, motivations. It is drawn toward this experience and not that experience. It is not as, it doesn't enjoy so much or feel as nourished or fulfilled by that experience as it does by this experience. So a soul will also guide us more authentically than the personal self, more authentically than the egoic construct that is a construct of programming and conditioning and stories and all the things that we were taught by mom, dad, society, media, culture. When that relaxes, initially we feel like, oh my God, I wouldn't do anything. I'd sit here as like a blob on the couch. I wouldn't get anything done. All my motivation would go. But that's only because we're so used to being motivated solely by the egoic construct that when that dims, when that relaxes, it can take a little while for us to hear our own soul and to trust its intuitions. Intuition is just listening to our own soul. And it will guide us robustly, powerfully, clearly, more peacefully, with less questioning, with less second guessing. But there's an in-between. And navigating that in-between takes some faith. And you need to know that it even exists so that you can endure it and be with it and not panic. But the in-between is kind of learning to not be so guided by the habitual narratives of the ego and start to be guided by the essential and natural and authentic inclinations of the soul. And one analogy would be like, imagine that you're at a rock concert and you're right up against the speaker and you've been there a long time listening to this bombardment of noise. That's our ego mind. It's been guiding us for an entire lifetime. The noise of the mind, the stories, the narratives, the opinions, the judgments. That's just been going on for so long. And imagine that you went right from that experience and were suddenly transported to a beautiful glen out in the forest. Initially, you wouldn't be able to hear the bird song, the frogs, the crickets, the light whispering of the wind through the trees, the babbling brook. You wouldn't be able to hear any of it. Your head would still be ringing with the habit, with the damage of the noise. You wouldn't be able to hear the subtle beauties of the forest. And if you didn't know what was going on, you might sit there and you'd hear nothing and you go, well, nothing's happening. I'm getting no guidance. I'm getting no input. But if you have faith and you practice and you come to rest in that stillness again and again and again, you start to feel and hear its presence. And it's beautiful. It's listening to your own authentic nature. And the stillness of consciousness that holds that nature. It's like going to a new place. And at first, you got to let it sink in. We maybe all have had the experience of being a bit overworked and then maybe going on vacation. And suddenly you're on the beaches of Hawaii. And it's beautiful. And often it takes 2 or 3 days to really arrive. To really go, oh God, it took me a while to really let go of the habitual energy and attention and storytelling of life back home. And I've been sitting in this peaceful place for 3 days, but it really took some time to truly arrive. That's like meditation. That's self-inquiry. That's coming to rest in the essential stillness of our being. And letting it inform us. So then we can go back from Hawaii, back to our lives, and carry with us the beauty in our own hearts that was awakened, that was enlivened by the Hawaii experience. If we come back and we regularly remember the feeling of being on that beach and the smell of the salt air and the gentle caress of the waves upon the shore, and the way the light filters through the palms, we can then be back in our lives in New York, right? Living our lives, and just stop and feel into what you've carried back from Hawaii. The more that we meditate into our truth, to know our truth, the more we can hear our own soul, follow its guidance with faith, with trust, with a deeper, clear knowing. And then we carry that back into our busy daily lives and relationships and conditions and situations. Some of them are going great, other ones not so great. But we can carry into any situation that truth of being, that peace that we are. Ali writes here, the practice and devotion is important. Must have motivation and remember to do the practice. Most times still forget about the practice and being lost in thought emotion. Need to build new habits. Yeah, it takes a while to wake up. Especially when the ego is saying, what are you doing? What's this new, quote, truth you are abiding? From the ego's perspective, it says this has no value. I'm in charge. I'm the one who needs to be fed. If you listen to this other self, how am I going to get all my goodies? You're going to stop feeding my addictions, my fears, my doubts, my sense of lack. Will no longer be so attended to. Sometimes we can calm that egoic fear by saying, no, I'll attend to you. It's just, I'm going to attend to you from true strength. These practices are so that I can attend to you, fearful ego, fearful self, doubtful self, pained, wounded, struggling self. Let me find some truth. Let's find some real truth, some real ground of grace and love and peace, so that this wounding, these feelings of lack, these feelings of fear can be attended to. But they can be attended to with love. They can actually be healed. So that's part of the practice, Ali, is kind of reminding yourself, the frightened self, no, this is all good. This is all, you'll feel better. And after a little bit, Ollie, and I think you're getting there about now, and you've been in this work now for 5 months, 6 months, something like that. And we talk about years, right? We talk about years to really, really often come into this deep, direct abidance. But where you are right now, I think you're probably coming to the place, Ollie, of recognizing that you kind of don't have a choice. The old ways of trying to manipulate and control and manage not only the outside world, but your own conditioning, It's not stable. It doesn't work. My mind still trots out old ripples of disempowering thought. Far, far less, and they're far less strong, but it still does. The idea isn't that I'm not free until that stops completely. The idea is that I know who I really am, and so when they arise, I can meet them and see them, notice them, and marvel at them, and go, "Oh yeah, there's check out my conditioning again. There's still some ripples there." Or it's like one analogy I use is like yelling out into the Grand Canyon and getting echoes back. Well, when you've been yelling, disparaging thoughts or, conditioned thoughts, feelings, emotions, when you've been screaming those out into the void for so long, even when you stop, you're still going to hear them echoing back at you, and the echoes will fade over time. So you just kind of start to realize, look, it's going to take what it takes. You don't quit climbing the mountain because you're not at the top and because it's gotten difficult. You don't stop practicing the piano concerto because you're not playing it masterfully yet. No, you keep playing until you play more masterfully. You don't stop and turn around and go back. I'm sorry, Ollie, there's no going back. There's no going back. Not once you know. Once you've got a glimpse and a glimmer and a hint and a taste of who you really are, there's no going back, because you recognize that the only thing that awaits you going back is more illusion and delusion and suffering and struggle. So move forward. Keep moving forward. And the one who is frustrated by not yet arriving is still being identified as the unfulfilled one. Recognize that the ego will never awaken. See, the ego is saying, once I am tamed, then I will be at peace. The ego will never be at peace. Not fully. It may be more peaceful, but it's always going to be making stuff up and having thoughts. And, we don't choose our thoughts. Often they just bubble up. There they are. So it's not that the ego will find peace. It's that the ego will let go of its dominance so that true peace, the true self, may know itself. May come into the forefront of our awareness. The ego says, I'm frustrated because I'm not feeling at peace. Well, the idea is to say to the ego, yeah, you're not supposed to. That's not what we're doing here. We're not trying to make the egoic self be what it's not. The egoic self will always be the egoic self. The idea here is that we learn to transcend that and move beyond that and find the true peace of being. And then when the ego arises its frustrations and says, ooh, I want some of that, you say, you just look at it from this peaceful state of being and you say, ego, you don't need it. You don't need it, because you're going to do what you do. I know who I am now. The true self is known. And the ego will start to feel more safe and secure, and it'll be less dominant, and its sense of lack and need and greed and fear will just be less and less and less dominant. Especially as we do our personal development work from a place of true peace. So we don't want to spiritually bypass. We do want to address our pains and our wounding But let's first come to rest in some truth, in some real love and peace, so we can bring that to the anxiety and difficulties and struggles of the ego. So I hope that helps. Says, yes, sometimes the egoic self gives doubt, gives reason to go back to egoic self. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sometimes. Heck, all the time. Imagine if imagine that you've never been in a self-driving car. Well, first let's imagine that self-driving cars are perfected. That they work beautifully. They really never have problems, and they're just a part of our lives now. But you've never been in one. The very first day I seat you, you've seen them in movies, your friends have them, like there's evidence all around that they work. So the self-driving car here is indicative or representative of the true self, the self that can truly navigate life beautifully, right? The soul self. But we're so used to manually driving the car. That's the ego. And I put the ego self into a self-driving car. And you've never been in one. You don't trust it yet. And I say, all right, now off you go. This car is going to take you on a 3-hour journey up into the mountains and you'll be fine. The odds that you would just say, oh, okay, cool. I've seen them in movies and I've read about them and I understand that they exist and they work well. So I can just get in the back seat and take a nap and wake up when we get there. Yeah, you can. The odds of you doing that are pretty remote. You'd want proof. You'd want to sit there in the car with your hands at the ready in case. That's the doubt. That's the doubt. Yeah, but does it really work? Yeah, but is that really who I am? Yeah, but really? Yeah, I don't believe I'm pure consciousness, already wholly fulfilled. That's never been my experience. So the ego self wants to drive. But after a while, if you just let the car drive, let the true essence of your being reveal itself and show itself to always be at peace and to always be far more powerful and strong and capable than the fearful ego. Let it show itself. Let it show itself. Let it show itself. Let the car drive. And after a while, this ego self is going to go, wow, this thing drives beautifully. It actually drives even better than I would have. Because I'd be slamming on the brakes and, oh, wait, what about? And, oh, be careful. And, and this car's just driving beautifully. It sees everything up ahead. It calculates everything. It just drives. And after a while, you would get used to it. And you'd be able to let the car drive. And you could relax and read a book or sip your tea or take a nap or do whatever you want to do and let the car drive. So that's what you get to do. The ego will say, yeah, but, really? I'll be okay? I mean, ultimately you say, yeah, you don't even exist. All your fears and doubts and stories and sense of worthiness or unworthiness or lovability or not lovable, those are all constructs of mind. You are okay. The essential, enduring, true, ever present right now, sense of self, truth of self is okay. Yeah. All right, my friends. Other thoughts, questions, reflections? Who are you? Really? Are you what you've been taught you are? Are you all the temporary dynamics of your human experience that will end someday? You are the vast and deep ocean of peace underneath the often and chaotic waves of the mind. The mind's not always chaotic. Sometimes the mind is very much at peace, calm, serene, undisturbed. Absolutely. But it doesn't tend to stay that way. Then it gets agitated about something or gets worked up about something. When we can sink down and remember the unwavering, unchanged, unbothered peace of being, then we can be rested as that peace and notice the fear. Oh, wow, look at my mind. Oh, check out the fear narrative. And ask, who's afraid? What if this turns out that way? What if this turns out that way? Then this would happen, then that would happen, and then I would be destroyed. Well, that isn't the consciousness of I saying I would be destroyed, is it? Because that I cannot be destroyed. The ocean is aware of the waves at the surface. It just is not so identified with them that it exists only in that thin layer of self. We want to be conscious of the wholeness of our being and not just that thin layer of projected ideas, thoughts, beliefs, images, narratives, opinions, judgments. We want to be aware of the wholeness of our being and not just the movie, not just the projected storylines. Does this make sense? Do you see how being attentive to our practices and our meditations and our awakening that awareness again and again and again is valuable? And whenever you self-inquire, who am I really and who am I not, you're going to keep coming up with the same answer again and again and again and again. And at some point, you may finally choose to live as who you are and stop believing who you're not. It's insanity. I got to that point where it just became so ludicrous. Why in the world would I continue to allow myself to be bothered by what I know is conditioned and programmed activity of mind and emotion, triggered emotion? Why would I let that rule my life when I know that that is all conditioned, programmed, learned thoughts, feelings, behaviors, opinions, assessments of an egoic construct that isn't me? It's ridiculous. It's absolute insanity to suffer something that is not even real and to deny this reality of being that I find every single time I stop and drop my awareness into the essential nature of being, the unwavering peace that is always there. The self beyond mind, the self beyond all the stories, the screen beyond the movie. Movie's always changing, the screen is always at peace. The sky beyond the weather is always changing, the sky is always at peace. The ocean waves on top of the calm, deep depth of peaceful ocean. The waves are always coming, going, changing, but the ocean is always the same. To recognize that we are suffering our own beliefs, our own thoughts. The intention is not to have the thoughts just stop someday. They will diminish greatly. But the intention is not to make the thoughts stop initially, but to recognize that believing your own thoughts is insanity. They're thoughts. They're thoughts that are bubbling up out of a database of algorithms, of past experiences and beliefs and ideas and conditioning and programming and things we were taught. They're thoughts that bubble up out of a database that was badly programmed. You program a computer badly, then every time you look to it for answers, it's going to give you bad answers. So you may come to a place where you realize this is insane. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done. I'm not going to believe my own narratives any longer. I'm going to come to rest in this beautiful stillness of being, and I'm going to trust that. And who's the I that trusts that? Is the stillness of being itself. You are not the ego. Stop trying to give it everything it wants. And even when it wants the stillness and it wants the peace, marvel at your own mind, watch it, witness it, laugh at it, love it, feel compassion for it, but don't get lost in it. Marvel at it from a place of love and compassion. It's like the sky marveling at the weather, going, "Oh, wow, this is a big storm. Check that out. Oh, look at those those light wispy clouds, and the sky is always just marveling at all the different hurricanes and slight drizzle and clear skies. It's just always marveling at whatever comes and goes within it. The movie screen is always fascinated with whatever movie is playing, but it doesn't get lost in it. Inner peace is what we are. It's not a state of mind. A peaceful state of mind comes and goes. And it's a paradox. A peaceful peace of mind, or a peaceful state of mind, we often then are clinging to making it stay peaceful, and that becomes a struggle, and then we're no longer at peace. The peaceful state of mind is interrupted by its own desire to stay peaceful. Genuine peace, the peace of conscious awareness that we are, that simply needs to be remembered. Just needs to have the light of awareness pointed to it again and again and again until it is so illuminated that it just shines beautifully and calmly and just subtly in the background of all experience. I've got some issues with my landlord. He's a kind of a psychopath, and it's frustrating, but I don't suffer the frustration. I'm at peace with it. It'll go this way, it'll go that way. Either way, I'm okay. I, the true I, I'm okay. In this human form, I'm going to do what I can to try to get the money that he owes me, or to try to get this situation fixed or whatever. I'm going to do whatever I can to make my life as easeful as I can. But I'm not going to suffer if it goes this way rather than that way, because I am peace. Does that make sense? Another comment here. When it's a good day, when things go as planned, it's easy to go to being. But having a bad day when things and people just don't go as planned, I find it harder to go to being, easily frustrated and lost in emotion. All right, so you know enough now, Ali. Yeah, that is the experience we often have. How do you get out of it? What's happening? It's valuable to ask, what is happening? Who's upset? Who's the one that got lost? Who are you really? This is why we ask this question again and again and again. But who are you really? Are you the frustrated one? Who's frustrated? Who's lost? Lost in what? Oh, lost in my own narratives, lost in my own ideas and thoughts and beliefs and needs and conditioning and stories of what it takes to be okay. And this is why we practice. Ali, you're a member of the Beyond the Noise course. You're a student of the Beyond the Noise course. The reason that course exists is to help you stay in the conversation of truth, and to look at all the different ways that the ego is going to attack and that the mind's going to question, how to move beyond that, how to transcend that, how to be with that struggle. And you're in the course so that you deepen your practice and you get more devotional in your practice, so that you will get lost less often and you'll remember your truth more often. So we practice feeling our truth, knowing our truth, abiding our truth, so that it continues to blossom and awaken and strengthen. The awareness of itself strengthens. It's already strong, but its awareness of itself strengthens, so that when we come from the peaceful meditation into the difficulty of life, where people aren't behaving and situations aren't behaving, we have a strength of inner peace awakened, so that we can go into, so that when life is difficult, we don't get so lost. Here's the key. A lot of people, what they do is they only try to go to the peace, go to the essence of being only when things are difficult. Well, that's like, it'd be like the concert pianist going to play in a symphony concert in front of a large audience under the pressure, right? And saying, oh shit, I haven't been practicing. It's going to be really hard for me to play well under this pressure. I haven't been practicing. So this is why we practice. So that even under in the pressure of a moment, we are so practiced that it's just natural. I think about, there was a show I used to watch as a kid, Kung Fu. Keith Carradine was the Asian master. I don't know what it was, Tai Chi, Kung Fu. Well, the show was called Kung Fu. And he was the master of Kung Fu, and he was living in the west of the United States. And the cowboys were all kind of the ignorant braggarts and, pistoleros and such. And then whenever there was conflict, he was the one that, even when people were throwing punches and the Indians were shooting arrows and life was coming at him hard, the world of ignorance and selfishness and greed, whenever it was coming at him hard, he just stood in his stillness, in his peace. And as the arrows would come, he would just deflect them. And as the punches would come, he would just move beyond. And he was so practiced, he would naturally know what movement to do to move the energy beyond him. It takes practice. So in my 10 foundations for true peace and freedom, you can get on my website, the free ebook. It talks about study is one of the foundations. Practice is one of the foundations. Patience is one of the foundations. Community, conversations, stillness. These are all foundations that we build, that we strengthen, so that we can live a life that is inherently chaotic and remain at peace, because that is who we already are. That's the superpower, to know our truth. That's the superpower, to know our truth. Yeah. So good day, bad day, difficult day. Those are all temporary experiences arising within the presence of peace. Peace, true, genuine peace, the consciousness of being that we are, pulled back from the mind, pulled back from all the activity of mind. It's just noticing it all, witnessing it all. The sky doesn't get lost in the weather. The movie screen doesn't get lost in the content of the movie. Know who you are, and that self does not get lost in the content of experience. It's when you forget that true self, when you don't trust its presence. that you get lost in the weather. So practice, practice, practice. Self-inquiry, the meditations that are a part of the course, the studies that are a part of the course, showing up as you do so beautifully, Ali, in these moments, in these conversations, in the monthly group coaching call that is a part of the Oasis community. Stay in the conversations. The ego will say, no, it's taking too long and it's too difficult. I'll be better. I'll get better. I'll get better. I'll get better. I promise. No, the ego is a construct of the mind. The mind is an unstable place. The ego will always be the ego. And it will never come to rest in peace. That is not its nature. Beautiful. All right. Any other final shares, thoughts? Study. Practice. When you're out in the garden working, when you're out on a walk, when you're sitting by the beachside, when you're driving, take the time to ask yourself, what makes up this human spiritual being? Who am I really? Am I my thoughts? Thoughts come and go. What is aware of my thoughts? What is the unwavering presence of being within which all experience arises and passes and comes and goes? I am the stillness in the background of all experience. Even the total getting lost in the content of experience is perceived. By the peaceful awareness of being. All right, my friends, blessings. We'll see you hopefully in 2 weeks. If you're part of the Oasis community, I think it's next Sunday we have breathwork. Much love, blessings. And I would say may peace be with you, but it's always with you. May you come to rest in the peace of being until you come to recognize yourself as the peace of being. And from there, everything can be experienced as the unwavering equanimity of peace. All right, much love. Blessings all.